Hi, I'm Jason Bass, and I'm one of the hosts for the Southern Entrepreneur Conference. This is James Russell Lingerfeld, and he would have been our MC. Because of coronavirus, we had to take this conference online, so we thought we'd create this little intro.
We asked the speakers to just tell their stories and sprinkle some wisdom along the way on how they accomplished their goals. And you can read about each of the speakers at southernerentrepreneur.org.
We'd like to thank our sponsors BMW of South Atlanta, the EMC of Coweta and Fayette counties, and Jason Hunter Design. We hope you enjoy the conference.
But when I was up in Syracuse, that's when I started my first business in high school.
What were you doing in high school with your business?
There's top coating driveways. So after you blacktop a driveway to protect it, it was a rubberized tar sealant that went over driveways. So I would go out and go door to door, knock on people's door and ask them if they wanted a free estimate. And I would do that all spring and summer long. So the business lasted from springtime to early fall, and then it was done.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that business for 4 years. It was me at first, and then I wound up having, I think I had up to 6 employees at one time that would help out. A couple people doing sales, other people were just my laborers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd employ other high school kids during the summertime that needed some work, and do everything from residential jobs to doing medium-sized commercial jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But the great thing in the end was it helped me go through a couple of years of college, and then I wound up selling the business. I was in the restaurant business for a little bit
In Florida?
in Florida. Then trying to think, I moved out to California, worked for Columbia Pictures for a little bit, then moved back to Florida. Kind of took a couple of different jobs here and there, trying to figure out what I wanted to be doing. Wound up after that moving out to Arizona and opening up a cafe out there, a breakfast lunch cafe.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for a short stint, and that didn't work out really well. But I had been, owned that when we opened it, but circumstances led me in a different direction. The pros and cons are when you're doing breakfast and lunch, really early mornings. You got to get ready for your breakfast customers. It wasn't the best location, but it was decent, and you have to have a great location and have a good restaurant. The pros were, I knew the restaurant business. I like it. Being able to create something and see people enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
The client interaction, being able to talk to your customers each day, and that's always something that I like. I like to spend time with people, and so it gave me that opportunity to do so. And the challenges were there. They were good challenges, though. It's like, how do you grow the business? Where are you going to take it? Do we need to change the menu? Do we need to, what do the customers want?
Mm-hmm.
And we picked up some interesting business. Like one of the deals we had, there was a carpet shop down the road, and they would serve free breakfast to all the contractors that would come in on Monday mornings. So I would make 150 to 200, bagel egg sandwiches or bagel egg and cheese or something like that every Monday morning with a couple coolers of orange juice, and take it down there and deliver it. And that was that was a victory. It was really cool when we had something like that. So I wound up in the end moving down to Bradenton, Florida to go into auto financing, which eventually brought me back up to Tallahassee, covering a territory there in sales for them, auto finance sales. So when you go to a car dealership and you go to buy a car and you talk to the finance person,
Mm-hmm.
and they get your car loan, we were one of the lenders
Gotcha.
that you could have got your car loan with.
Mm-hmm.
In a roundabout way, I went from there and worked for that, found some other things in between until I landed what had happened was I was actually going to go do financing for a car dealership. Had a job secured, decided to take a little break between 2 jobs, and while I was gone, called the dealership and said, what time do you want me there, next Monday? And they said, oh, sorry, nobody's called you. The partner that hired you is no longer with us, so you don't get your job.
Wow.
So it's like, oh man. But I just found something to do. I picked up a newspaper, knew I could pretty much sell cars at any dealership. I did that for a little bit, which I did not like at all. But I wound up getting a job working for a fitness company, selling retail and commercial fitness equipment. And I did that for a number of years. I love that.
Yeah.
Even though it did require, you work every Saturday, but 2 days off during the week, you always had Sunday off and one other day usually during the week. I helped them expand. That was in Tallahassee. And from there, eventually we moved over to Jacksonville and I opened up 2 stores in Jacksonville for them. Did that for a number of years. And what was great was it was small enough that I was able to take ownership in a lot of what I did. Did not own the company itself, but was involved in a lot of those decisions on the executive level. And so you felt like an owner. You were involved with all aspects of the business, everything from logistics to advertising to bookkeeping to sales, to training, to service, you name it. So I really, that I learned a lot about business and running a business, especially brick and mortar. Jump ahead a little bit, wound up getting into the mortgage business because I had worked for a couple finance companies earlier in my life, and then wound up running two different mortgage companies while everything was. This was right before coming up to 2008 with that wonderful recession. Somehow I started working. I don't ever remember applying for the job, but I wound up getting a job working for the Florida Lottery as a sales operations manager. Did that for a few years, got promoted to headquarters to run the claims processing, prize payment department. Then there was a job up here in Georgia for the Georgia Lottery doing the same thing, just better income. So I moved up here and took that job. But at one point there was a long list of things that someday I was going to get to do. It's like one day I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do that. And I'm driving back and forth from Peachtree City to Atlanta every day. When you total up those hours, that's a full work week in a month. When you spend over 40 hours in a car, priorities needed to change for me personally. And so it was, I'm going to start working on this list of things. Some business ideas, some personal. And I was at a network event one night and wound up, somebody was telling me about a co-working office in Noonan. And from there I had a light bulb moment, thought Peachtree City, wonder if they could use one. Because I had been following that trend as a hobby for a couple of years. And then I opened up Launch and Go. So a year and a half later, here I am. You could have the best idea in the world in your mind, but if the market doesn't want it, either one, they may not know they need it, but so there's a couple of approaches. There's a lot of stuff out there, right? So, you want a coffee mug. Well, what makes this coffee mug better than the next one? I've got a great idea for a coffee mug. Okay. Is it something that you've heard that people want? Or if not, how do you convince them that they really want this coffee mug versus this one? So you can have something like that. But so you have to look at where your market share is going to be. You got to look at what the demand is going to be. You're going to probably have to test that or go out and do research or get marketing research, hire somebody to do that research for you. Where are you going with it? Is it a local scale that you need to be on? National, international? Do you need to have an office run to do it? Is it an e-commerce business? So first you got to find the need. Sometimes, as we've said, the customer may not know that they need that. And do you have a plan to show them that this is a new thing that they really should have, that they're missing out on, and why. Sometimes it's a little more of an uphill battle to get there, but if it's worth it in the end, if you take your products out there and beta test them, and people are like, oh my goodness, you're right, this is something that we do need, then you can move forward with it. If you take your product out there and people don't get it or don't understand it, maybe you need to retool it, or maybe it's just not something that is the thing, right, for you. So, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to have an electric plug-in back scrubber that I use in the shower. Don't know how far that would go as a product. But you can take the idea and run with it now that I just thought of it. But now if it was battery operated and waterproof, you might have something. I think a lot of folks also think I run my own business, I can manage my time, I'll have a lot more freedom, and generally that's the opposite, at least in the beginning, right? That freedom of time comes over time. If you have time in the type of business that you want to go into or launch, go try to work. If you haven't already worked for a company that does that, maybe you should go work for a company in that, so you can actually have firsthand experience. It's like somebody opening up a restaurant, right? Oh, I've heard it numerous times. I used to do some restaurant consulting, and I'm like, why do you want to open up a restaurant? What experience do you have? Oh, my friends say I'm one of the best cooks. I've got original recipes. It's like, okay, well, do you know anything about scale? Do you know anything about high volume? Do you understand where food costs come in? And, where's your profit margin? Do you know that, every piece, every cup that you have, every straw is expenses that you have to account for? And when you get into that, I think that's why over 60% of restaurants and bars actually fail within the first year, is people have that idea and they've really never been in the business, or they've been in a segment of it and really don't understand the whole operation. And that goes without saying for a lot of other businesses as well. So if you can find a mentor, as you said, or somebody to shadow, or reach out to other people in your industry and be able to talk to them and say, tell me the good and the bad. Tell me where you made your mistakes, or what are things that I need to really focus on in the future here, so I can, do that. Before I opened up Launch and Go, that's what I did. I'd call up co-working offices across the country and talk to them. Heck, I used to talk to one person over in England about their co-working office. How are what's the different aspects of the businesses that I need to know about? So that's a great way to do it.
If you are wanting to eventually sell what you got, what are some of the first 2 or 3 steps it would be a good idea to try to take?
Make sure your books are in order. That's the first thing I'll tell you. Don't fudge your books. Period. I mean, if I want to show you how valuable my business is, and I'm trying to hide dollars or keep money off the books, what good does that do anybody? If you're coming in to look at my business, how can I show you the true value? So that's the first thing, is make sure your books are in order. Make sure you're upfront about it and you're honest. The other is make sure you've taken account of all your inventory. How do you should have a manual of how things run. Some people want to just take over your operation the way it is, and they'll make their own adjustments and changes. Other people, they may just want something that you have. If you have a certain product or service, like my first business I had, I wasn't teaching them anything. Hadn't reinvented the wheel. I had a book of business. That was it. They wanted that book. There was, that book of business was worth X number of dollars. And so they were willing to pay so much money for that. You may want to talk to somebody. Certain professionals will do business evaluations, and it is well worth the time and money to have somebody do that. You may think your business is worth, $500,000, when in reality it's worth $100,000. Well, why do you think it's worth $500,000? Even if you're not going to sell your business, it's good to get an evaluation done at least 3 to 4 years into a new business. And after that, to make sure you're on track. Because someday you may want to sell. Why just close your doors and walk away and leave money on the table when you can walk out the door with something in your pocket? If you got an idea, take the time to research and do it. Don't just think about it and say, what if I had done this? You know, go out and try it. If you fail, you fail. Hopefully you gave it your best effort. You did everything. Or if you needed help, you went out and asked for that help. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you're running a business and getting advice. But don't be sitting on your porch in your 70s saying, I wonder if I had actually started that, what would have happened? What would Steve Jobs have said if he said, I wonder if I had actually made that computer?